Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most fundamental, literally life or death puzzles in the entire animal kingdom. We're talking about the magic trick of breathing. You know, every single time you take a breath, you're actually participating in this incredibly ancient biological ritual. But as we're about to see, nature has engineered some absolutely wild, almost alien-like ways to pull this off across different species. Take a look at this familiar face. It's a dolphin breaking the surface of the water. Now, because it's a mammal just like us, this dolphin breathes atmospheric air. It literally has to hold its breath underwater. Crazy, right? But what about all the other creatures out there? So many animals face completely different, honestly incredibly harsh environments to get the oxygen they need to survive. They don't just have the luxury of popping up to the surface for a quick gulp of air. And that brings us to the central mystery of our explainer today. Just think about these four creatures for a second. A planarian flatworm, a grasshopper, a trout, and a hawk. All four of them desperately need oxygen for energy. But here's the catch. Three of them don't have anything even remotely resembling human lungs. So how do they do it? How are they fueling their bodies without our standard biological equipment?
Well, to answer that, we really have to strip away our mammal-centric bias and look at the absolute baseline rule of survival. The crucial concept here is gas exchange. You see, regardless of their anatomy, whether they're rocking a beak, fins, or an exoskeleton, every single animal has to perform this exact same magic trick. During respiration, they absolutely must take oxygen in, and they have to push carbon dioxide out. Oxygen is what fuels the cellular fires, and carbon dioxide, that's just the exhaust that needs to be expelled. It's one universal problem for everyone.
Okay, let's dive into this. Breathing underwater, the aquatic solution. We're looking at the super unique challenge of extracting oxygen when you are completely submerged in a liquid, because getting oxygen out of water is vastly different, and chemically just way harder than pulling it out of thin air. Just notice the sheer mechanical elegance of a fish's anatomy here. Look at that extreme close-up of the gills. This isn't just some simple filter. It is a brilliantly specialized gadget perfectly adapted to the water. See those delicate, kind of feathery structures? Those are called gill filaments, and they are packed tightly with blood vessels, which creates this massive surface area to maximize contact with the surrounding water. It's honestly genius. So let's trace the physical microjourney of water through this whole system. Step 1, the fish opens its mouth and gulps in water. Then step 2, this water is forcefully driven over those red gill filaments we were just looking at. And at this exact moment, oxygen-poor blood flowing through the filaments miraculously grabs the dissolved oxygen right out of the water, instantly becoming oxygen-rich blood ready to fuel the fish's muscles. Finally, step 3, the oxygen-depleted water exits out the back through a little protective flap called the operculum. It's a continuous, highly efficient, one-way street of breathing. But what happens when we step out of the water to explore dry land? We're talking invertebrate respiration, and you should definitely prepare to have your mind blown, because some of these anatomies look like something straight out of a science fiction movie. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what I mean. We've got a spider and a grasshopper. And here's the wild part. Neither of these bugs breathe through their mouths the way you and I do. Nope. Instead, they have these bizarre, hidden internal structures tucked away inside their abdomens to handle their gas exchange. Let's actually contrast these two incredible alien gadgets. Take a look at the spider's system first. It's aptly named a book lung. See those thin, stacked layers? They literally look like the folded pages of a book. And what they do is create these really narrow channels for airflow to pass through, exchanging gases directly with the spider's fluid. Then, look over at the grasshopper. Totally different approach. It uses a network called trachea. The grasshopper actually has these little portholes running along the side of its body called spiracles. Air just flows directly into these spiracles and pipes through a branching network of tracheal tubes, delivering oxygen straight to the grasshopper's tissues. Literally no lungs required. All right, let's shift our focus back to the vertebrate lung, a much more familiar architecture. We've seen how bugs and fish do it, so now let's set up our own anatomical baseline. What we're looking at here is a cross-section of a primate, highlighting the specific biological equipment that you and I are intimately familiar with. You can clearly follow the pathway leading right down into that branching structure of the lung. In fact, I want you to take a deep breath right now. Go ahead. As you do, imagine the micro-journey of a single oxygen molecule traveling through this exact pathway. It enters through your nostrils or mouth, glides past the throat, and travels down the rigid cartilaginous tube of the trachea.
Finally, it arrives deep inside that dense, highly branched network of the lung. That's where the magic of gas exchange happens, swapping that oxygen for carbon dioxide, which you then exhale right back out. It's a two-way street, in and out through the exact same pipe. Let's move on and see how this builds, because nature didn't just invent the vertebrate lung and call it a day. Look at this incredible evolutionary lineup. It showcases the sheer diversity of lungs, starting from a pretty simple amphibian on one side, moving through a reptile and a mammal, all the way to a bird. And notice the stark contrast in complexity here. For the amphibian, we're talking incredibly simple lung sacs. They look almost like smooth, hollow balloons with barely any internal structure. But then, jump over to the bird. Look at all those additional structures. Birds have evolved these highly advanced lungs supplemented by a vast network of multiple air sacs. These sacs actually act like bellows, pushing air through the bird's lungs in a continuous one-way loop. So unlike our lungs, where old and new air kind of mix together, a bird's lungs are constantly receiving fresh oxygen. It is an absolute masterpiece of biological engineering, and it's exactly what provides the massive amounts of continuous energy they need to power flight. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, it really comes down to this one idea. One universal problem, endless evolutionary solutions. Despite having wildly different anatomies, from the feathery gills of a trout to the folded book lungs of a spider to those porthole spiracles of a grasshopper or the continuous flow air sacs of a hawk, every single creature is perfectly adapted to perform the exact same crucial task of gas exchange. I want to wrap up by throwing a question from our source material back to you. Do you think other organisms regulate gas exchange the same way humans do? As we've clearly seen today, the answer is a resounding no. The mechanics are vastly, beautifully different, yet the outcome, getting oxygen in and carbon dioxide out, is completely identical. It's just so fascinating to realize that the simple act of taking a breath, even though it looks totally different depending on the species, is the very thread that connects you to the vast, incredible diversity of the entire animal kingdom. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and remember to keep wondering about the world around you.